The blizzard moves like a living creature, white, furious, starving. It crawls across the mountainside, swallowing trees, biting into rock, and hurling fists of snow against whatever still stands. The wind shrieks through broken rafters as if mourning the world it once knew. Inside the shattered remains of a supply shed, 8 Japanese women crouch together in a trembling knot of limbs and frost-bitten breath. Their uniforms are torn, stiff with frozen mud. Their cheeks raw and burning from hours of exposure. Every exhale leaves a small ghost drifting upward before vanishing into the bitter cold. Haruka presses a cloth pouch to her chest. Inside lies a small wooden comb, lightweight, splintered on one edge. Her younger sister carved it before the war, tracing cherry blossoms onto the handle with the patience of someone who believed peace would always return. Haruka's numb fingers keep rubbing those faded carvings, as if the memory might warm her. Yuki sits beside her, knees pulled to her chest, scarf crusted with ice. She tries to speak, but her lips feel made of stone. Finally, with a voice barely louder than the wind, "If they find us, they will leave us here. Shameful women do not deserve bullets." The others do not correct her. The propaganda has sunk too deep. Stories whispered in barracks, printed on leaflets. Americans abandon female prisoners in the snow. Americans punish surrender. Americans do not show mercy. The shed groans under the storm's weight. Snow forces its way through cracks, settling onto their hair, their shoulders, their shivering knees. Then, footsteps, heavy, slow, coming closer. Haruka's spine locks. Yuki grabs her hand. A breathless stillness falls over the group. Through the curtain of snow, silhouettes emerge, tall shapes. Wrapped in winter gear, rifles lowered. American soldiers. One steps into the doorway, eyes widening with shock at the sight of the nearly frozen women. He raises his gloved hand gently, palm open. No anger, no threat, just recognition. Another kneels by a collapsed woman, checking her pulse. Then a voice, warm and firm despite the cold. "We can't leave them. Pick them up. Carry them." Haruka's world breaks open. The enemy is saving them. The storm does not ease for them. It howls harder, swirling around the soldiers, who now carry the women as if lifting fragile relics pulled from a forgotten shrine. Snow gathers on helmets, melts on warm breath, freezes again along the edges of scarves. The world is white, endless, disorienting, a spinning void where direction loses meaning. Haruka feels herself swaying with each step of the American carrying her. His arms are firm but careful, avoiding the bruises on her ribs. She can hear his heartbeat through the layers of fabric, a steady human sound. It is so strange, so impossibly gentle, she wonders if she is hallucinating. Yuki is draped across another soldier's back, her face against the rough canvas of his pack. Each exhale fogs the collar of his coat. Her fingers, stiff from cold, clutch at the straps, not out of trust, but out of instinctive fear of falling. Behind them, 2 more soldiers help the women who can still walk, keeping hands on their arms so they do not sink into the drifts. A medic moves beside the group, checking pulses, brushing frost from eyelashes, murmuring quiet encouragement none of the women expected to hear from an enemy's mouth. "Just a little more. Keep your eyes open. You're safe. We've got you." Safe? The word feels unreal, like a lie that is somehow warmer than truth. As they move, Haruka's thoughts drift back to the leaflets, the lectures, the warnings drilled into them. Americans despise surrender. Americans hate Japanese women. Americans will abandon you. But the man holding her adjusts his grip gently, shielding her face from the wind with his sleeve. Why? The snow crunches under boots, rhythmic and heavy. The soldiers breathe in short bursts, not from fear but exertion, because carrying full-grown adults uphill through a blizzard is punishing. Yet none of them complain, none stop. Haruka opens her mouth. A question escapes her, weak but audible. "Why, help us?" The soldier doesn't understand the words, but he hears the trembling in her voice. After a moment, he answers quietly, "Because you're human. That's enough." Haruka blinks against the snow. For the first time since the war began, warmth spreads through her, not from the soldier's coat, but from a truth she never expected to feel. The blizzard rages. They walk on, and everything she believed begins to crack. The blizzard thins as they descend the ridge, the wind weakening into a tired sigh. The world, once a violent blur of white, slowly reveals shapes, tents lined in disciplined rows, lanterns flickering behind canvas walls, smoke curling upward from small stoves like soft gray ribbons. The Americans have built a camp. Here, a pocket of warmth carved out of winter's cruelty. The moment the soldiers step into its perimeter, voices rise. Over here! Blankets now. Heaters on, move. Haruka flinches at the noise, expecting anger, commands barked in harsh tones. Instead, she hears urgency, concern. The soldier carrying her lowers her gently onto a cot outside the medical tent. Soft fabric brushes her skin. A blanket, thick and warm, settles over her shoulders. The wool smells faintly of soap and something clean, something she hasn't smelled in months. Yuki is set down beside her, a medic kneeling to check her frostbitten fingers. His gloves squeak as he removes them, revealing warm, firm hands. He speaks slowly, exaggeratedly, trying to make the women understand the tone even if the words fail. You're okay. We're helping. Stay awake. Haruka's gaze drifts to a small wooden box beside the tent. A soldier opens it and pulls out something white, rectangular, wrapped in paper. He tears the wrapper, and a sweet, floral scent escapes, faint, soft, impossible. Soap. Real soap. Thick, white, heavy in his hand. Her breath catches. Back home, soap had become rare. Here, they have enough to hand out freely. The medic gestures toward her hands, miming washing. She stares at him, confused. Why would the enemy give her something so gentle? Another shock arrives in the form of a cup pressed into her hands. Warm metal meets frozen fingers. Steam rises from the lip, thin, wavering, fragrant. Tea. American tea, but hot enough to sting as she sips. Her throat burns with the sudden heat, and tears spring to her eyes. Not from pain, but from something deeper, more fragile. Yuki whispers, "They were supposed to leave us." Haruka cannot answer. She looks around. Cots, blankets, steaming cups carried from tent to tent. No one pushes them. No one curses them. No one calls them unworthy. The greatest shock is not warmth. It is dignity, and it terrifies her more than the blizzard ever did. Morning arrives slowly in the American camp. A pale sun rises through the thinning clouds, softening the snow into a dull silver glow. Frost cracks under boots. Canvas tents tremble lightly in the lingering breeze. The war, so loud everywhere else, feels muted here, wrapped in a strange quiet that makes the heart ache. Haruka wakes to the smell of something warm, rich, unfamiliar. A soldier sets down a metal tray beside her cot. Steam curls upward, carrying the scent of broth. Real broth, thick and savory. Nothing like the watery millet soup she survived on for months. She blinks at the tray. Bread, a small square of butter, a ladle of stew with chunks of potatoes, meat, carrots. Her stomach tightens painfully. The sight alone feels like a dream too bright to stare at directly. Yuki sits up slowly, blanket wrapped around her shoulders. She stares at the food as though it might vanish if she breathes too hard. Is this all for us? Her voice shakes. The soldier nods. Eat slowly, he says, gesturing with gentle hands. Haruka picks up the spoon. Her fingers tremble so much she almost drops it. She raises the stew to her lips and the aroma hits her first. Deep, earthy, warm, like something from another life. The taste follows, flooding her mouth with richness she forgot existed. Her eyes sting. Back home, mothers boiled grass with rice husks, stretching rations into impossible meals. Bread had become a rumor, butter a legend, and meat. Meat was something whispered about in lines outside ration shops. Yuki swallows a bite too quickly, coughing as tears spill down her face. A medic steps closer, worried. She waves him off with a tiny smile, choking back words. I'm sorry. It's just, I haven't tasted real food since... Her voice breaks. Haruka remembers her mother's final letter. We are fine. We eat enough. She now realizes those words were lies of love, soft, protective lies to keep her from worrying. The stew warms her throat, but guilt warms her chest with a slow, painful burn. Why should the enemy's food taste kinder than the homeland that raised her? A question forms quietly in her mind, one she is afraid to acknowledge. If the Americans are monsters, why does their kindness feel more real than the stories she was taught? The tray sits between them, simple, ordinary, overflowing. A quiet, devastating proof that everything she believed might be wrong. Night settles early in the mountains, folding the camp into a hush broken only by distant generators and the soft crunch of patrolling boots. Lantern light sways gently inside the medical tent, painting warm gold over canvas walls. The air smells of antiseptic, melting snow, and something faintly sweet, soap. still strange to their senses. Haruka lies awake, staring at the ceiling. Sleep should come easily after exhaustion, but kindness has a way of keeping the mind painfully alert. Beside her, Yuki writes in a small notebook the Americans gave her when she mistook a bandage roll for paper. Her handwriting trembles across the page. If they intended cruelty, she writes, why do they give us names instead of numbers? Haruka closes her eyes. She remembers her training, words hammered into them like steel nails. Do not trust the enemy. Their kindness is a trap. Mercy is a weapon sharper than any blade. But then she remembers earlier that evening, a soldier adjusting a blanket over her, shoulders without touching, her skin more than necessary. Another asking if she wanted her tea, less hot so it wouldn't burn her frostbitten lips. A medic who tried to explain a treatment method by sketching small pictures, because he knew she wouldn't understand his English. None of it resembled the enemy she had memorized in barracks posters. A shadow moves at the entrance. The young American who carried her through the blizzard steps inside, his breath fogging in the cold air behind him. He sets down a tin cup. Steam rises, warm milk, slightly sweetened. He doesn't say much, just a soft, for sleep, before giving a respectful nod and stepping back out. Haruka stares at the cup. In Japan, her mother used to warm milk on winter nights. The memory hits so suddenly she presses her hand to her mouth to keep a sound from escaping. Yuki whispers, Haruka, why are they treating us like this? Haruka does not know, and the not knowing terrifies her. This gentleness, this unbearable gentleness, chips away at the walls she was taught to build. Each kindness feels like a question she cannot answer. Who am I? If the enemy shows me more humanity than the world I fought for, the conflict is no longer outside. It is inside her chest, quiet, relentless, impossible to escape. Morning comes softly, so softly, it almost feels like an apology for all the nights before it. A pale warmth brushes the snow outside the tent, turning the frost on the canvas into tiny glowing crystals. The camp stirs with slow movements, clinking metal cups, muted voices, the rustle of blankets being folded. It feels different today, lighter, expectant. A senior American officer enters the medical tent, removing his cap respectfully before stepping closer. His expression is calm, almost solemn, as he looks at the women. He speaks slowly, choosing words carefully. The interpreter beside him translates. The war is ending. You will be taken to a safer facility. From there, you may return home. Home. The word strikes Haruka like a blow. Home. A place she can barely imagine now. Shaped by hunger, air raids, and quiet lies written in careful ink. Home. Where letters stopped coming long before surrender. Home. Where she doesn't know who survived, who didn't, who changed. Yuki's hand flies to her mouth as sound escapes her. A soft, broken gasp of disbelief. Tears gather but do not fall, trembling under her lashes like dew on thin petals. Haruka lowers her gaze, letting the truth sink in. Freedom, return, life beyond this war. She expects joy to fill her, relief, gratitude. But instead her chest tightens with something heavier. Uncertainty, because part of her has changed, against her will, without permission. The Americans begin packing the tent. A soldier approaches Haruka, offering her the wooden comb she dropped during treatment days earlier. He cleaned it, polished it, wrapped it carefully in cloth. He places it in her hands with quiet respect. For you, he says. Her fingers curl around it. The warmth of his gesture burns deeper than the cup of tea, deeper than the blanket, deeper than the blizzard they rescued her from. As the women are escorted toward the waiting trucks, Haruka turns once, just once, to look back at the camp. The rising sun paints the soldiers in gold, their breath drifting in soft clouds. These men, the enemy she had feared, hated, imagined as monsters, had carried her miles through a storm, just to keep her alive. A single thought rises inside her, quiet but unshakable. War taught me what to hate. Kindness taught me what to question. As the truck doors close and the engine rumbles to life, Haruka presses the wooden comb to her heart. And in that moment, between past and future, between home and uncertainty, she understands a truth that will haunt her for the rest of her life. Humanity can be found in the hands you were told to fear,